welcome to Love Letters. Love Letters are a collection of love stories of people get lost, get crazy, and disoriented in the name of love. And another week, another great episode. The cartography of intimacy maps, misdirection, and sacred desire. What a topic indeed.
Yes, this is the cartography of intimacy, why so many of us were given a bad map to love and how to find our way back. And so, what stood out to me most in the cartography of intimacy is the reaction to a Substack article, The Cartography of Intimacy by Mr. Marsh. You've heard it before, love is supposed to be magical, but what if the way we've been taught to love and be loved is all based on a faulty map? In this episode, we're unpacking a raw and beautiful meditation on nervous system safety, emotional presence, and sacred sexuality. We'll explore what it means to feel safe in your body with another person, how trauma trains us to normalize dysfunction, and why so many of us confuse desire with performance. Along the way, we'll bring in St. John Paul II, Nietzsche, a bit of wisdom, and even a little Ian Hunter. So ask one question: what does it take to be loved whole? Whether you're single, married, or somewhere in between, this conversation might help you rewrite your life story from the inside out. What struck me immediately and what I found so spiritually charged was Mr. Marsh's phrase: when it comes to intimacy, we've all been handed a bad map. That's such a rich metaphor. You can feel the ache behind it, the yearning, and it resonates because we've all followed those faulty maps before. Many of us were taught that love and intimacy were transactional, or that vulnerability was dangerous. That desire was suspect, even sinful. We were handed maps written in ink that bled with fear, not love. This article called out the geography of our hearts, how we've been taught to travel toward connection while avoiding real exposure. And that's where the bad map analogy lands. We think we're seeking love, but the coordinates we're given often point towards performance, control, self erasure, or emotional shutdown. It reminds me of what the Jewish philosopher Martin Buber said in the I it versus I thou relationship. Many of us learn to treat people as objects, means to ends, because it feels safer. But real intimacy begins when we shift from I it to I thou, when we dare to meet the other as sacred and unrepeatable. Marsh is saying something similar. We've been taught that love means possessing someone or being perfectly pleasing, but real intimacy requires showing up messy, unvarnished, and radically present. In the Christian tradition, this is deeply tied to the incarnation. God choosing vulnerability, choosing embodiment. Sacred intimacy always includes risk. That's the map we were never given. I think of Ian Hunter's song, To Love a Woman, Overnight Angels, 1977. This song portrays the vulnerability and depth of loving someone profoundly. Hunter expresses the challenges of articulating deep emotions, emphasizing the sacredness of such a connection. Cross my heart and hope to die, the words won't come, although I try. The repetition of to love a woman underscores the reverence and significance he places on this intimate bond. There's that thrill, that danger, that liberation in being fully seen and accepted. In conclusion, Mistu's piece evokes that same intensity the courage it takes to throw away the old map and draw a new one together by hand with trembling fingers.
What stood out to you most in cartography of intimacy, Mr. Mac?
Well, they think about it, and the question I'm trying to address is so many people end up in relationships who lack this kind of emotional safety because we're rarely taught that safety and intimacy are two sides of the same coin. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to give up the real thing for the shadow of it. Many of us grow up believing that emotional safety means avoiding conflict, playing nice, or never rocking the boat. Well, that's not safety, that's suppression. Real emotional safety doesn't mean you're always calm or agreeable. It means you trust that the other person won't weaponize your vulnerability, that they'll hold your truth without flinching or fleeing. We're also taught that attraction and drama go hand in hand. Blame it on decades of love songs, Hollywood scripts, or our unresolved childhood wounds. But we often mistake adrenaline for intimacy. Hunter delves into themes of vulnerability and the longing for genuine connection. His lyrics expresses a deep yearning that transcends superficial passion. He writes, "It was a cold, cold house. I was a cold, cold room. And then someone broke inside of me." This line captures the transformation from emotional isolation to profound intimacy, resonating with the idea of moving beyond trauma induced patterns to authentic connection. Nietzsche said, "We are unknown to ourselves, we men of knowledge." I think of that when I see people chasing love without understanding their nervous systems. If you grew up in chaos, unpredictability might feel like home. You'll keep picking partners who match that pattern, not because you want pain, but because your body confuses it with love. That's why Mistu's metaphor of maps is so brilliant. Many of us inherited maps that normalize dysfunction and call it devotion. That's why we end up lost. We're not defective, we're disoriented. I see this all the time as a book coach. Clients will say, "I want to write about a safe, stable relationship." But when they find one, they get bored or anxious. That's because their map told them that love should hurt or they should need to earn worth through suffering. So they keep returning to the terrain they know, even if it breaks them. To build a different kind of relationship, we have to rewrite the map from scratch. In conclusion, that takes guidance, healing, and immense courage.
Mr. Mick, what do you think so many people end up in relationships that lack this kind of emotional safety?
Yes, well, Mistu writes about wanting a relationship where his nervous system feels safe, and we might recognize nervous system harmonize with someone. That's a powerful and practical question because emotional safety isn't just a feeling, it's a biological response. Your body will tell you the truth faster than your mind ever will. When your nervous system feels safe with someone, you breathe more deeply around them. Your shoulders drop. You don't have to rehearse your sentences before speaking. There's a kind of internal exhale, not just relief, but rest. Your body says, "I don't have to be on guard." In trauma informed therapy, we talk about the window of tolerance, the zone in which you can stay regulated, curious, and connected. When you're with someone safe, your window of tolerance expands. You can handle disagreements without dissociating or panicking. You can bring up fears without spiraling into shame. That's what Mistu is pointing to when he says, "I want a relationship where my nervous system feels safe." It's not about avoiding every trigger. It's about knowing that when you're triggered, the other person won't abandon or punish you, that they'll stay present. And here's the twist. Sometimes when we're only known unsafe relationships, genuine safety can feel boring or even threatening. That's why healing involves rewiring our response to safety. It reminds me of the biblical image of manna in the wilderness, nourishment that feels unfamiliar. God's provision often comes in forms we're not used to. Safe love can feel strange until we learn to trust it. From a book coaching perspective, I always tell clients, look less at how people make you feel after their first response to your writing about relationships and more at how you sleep afterward. Does your soul feel stirred or settled? Do you feel more like yourself, or do you start shapeshifting? Safe relationships are those where you feel at home in your own body. In conclusion, when that happens, you'll notice something extraordinary. You stop trying to survive love and you start living it.
Living it indeed. Mitsu writes about wanting a relationship where his nervous system feels safe. How do we recognize when our nervous system harmonizes with someone?
Listen, he talked about the nervous system and relates it to sexuality. He says, "I want to be wanted for all of me, not just the parts you can fetishize." And so that line reveals something about our cultural approach to sex. And it hits me like a lightning bolt because he gets at the deep fracture in modern sexuality. We crave embodiment, but we practice fragmentation. When Mistu says, "I want to be wanted for all of me," he's naming something sacred. There exists a deep human yearning to be truly valued, not just simply objectified or consumed, to be touched, not just physically, but soul deep. And that's rare in a culture that constantly separates sex from personhood. Much of contemporary sexual culture, especially what's shaped by pornography, trains us to fixate on body parts, performances, or fantasies, but we were never meant to be reduced to objects of arousal. Genesis says humans are made in the image of God, not as pixels or products, but as mysteries to be reverenced. And let's not forget, St. John Paul II said in Theology of the Body that the body expresses the person, not just biology, but theology. True sexual union in that framework is a kind of sacrament. It reveals something about divine love. That's why to not only desire someone's body without wanting their story, their soul, their suffering, it's a kind of desecration. This line also evokes the pain of women who have been fetishized or hypersexualized while their full humanity was ignored. Mistu is drawing a boundary here. You cannot have my body if you refuse my depth. In short, you've got to learn to leave the table when love's no longer being served. That's what Mistu is doing here. He's refusing to be served up in pieces. He wants to be loved whole. And I think that's a challenge to all of us, men, women, everyone. Do we want real intimacy? Then we have to be willing to meet the whole person, not just the fantasy. In conclusion, we have to make sex about communion, not consumption.
Communion indeed, to be sacred. He also talks about sexuality and says, I want to be wanted for all of me, not just a parts of you can fetishize. What does that line reveal about our cultural approach to sex?
That's the biggest shift people have to make and to move towards the intimacy that he describes. We have to stop asking, am I desirable? And start asking, am I known? That might sound simple, but it's revolutionary. Our culture trains us to obsess over whether we're attractive, sexy, or wanted. But those questions keep us externally focused and ultimately anxious. We're always scanning for feedback, performing for approval, and curating ourselves to be lovable. But Mistu's essay points us to something holier. He's not performing, he's presenting. He's not asking to be desired, he's inviting someone to witness him. That's a sacred shift. It moves us from objectification to mutuality. This is a movement from utility to authenticity, from being valued for use to being valued for essence. In the Christian mystical tradition, intimacy with God is often described as being fully known and fully loved. That's the goal, not perfection, but presence, not seduction, but surrender. The shift we're talking about here is existential. It means we have to stop chasing likes and start longing for presence. We stop hiding behind filters and start stepping into the nakedness of truth. And this is where the secular and sacred wisdom align. Carl Jung reminded us that striving for perfection misses the point. The real aim of life is to grow into our whole, authentic selves. Mistu's vision of intimacy is about wholeness, showing up with your trauma, your beauty, your awkwardness, your desire, and trusting that it's welcome. Black Sabbath sang about changes in their song, Changes, after the singer let his woman go. He started again, and that's intimacy too. The real shifts don't start with others, they begin in how we meet ourselves. When we start shaming our needs, minimizing our pain, or overperforming to be loved, we become available to real love, not fantasy, not clout. In conclusion, for love that shows up and stays.
So, what does mean for people who want to love better, whether they're single, dating, married, or divorced?
It means we have to trade fantasy for formation. Instead of chasing the perfect partner, we cultivate the skills of presence, courage, and curiosity. Instead of asking, is this person hot or high status? We ask, can I be my full self with them and can they with me? Instead of idolizing compatibility, we honor commitment, the choice to grow together, even when it's hard. Loving better means remapping intimacy. And here's where I get practical. Ask yourself, do I know how to regulate my nervous system in conflict? Do I listen to understand or am I just responding? Can I hold someone's vulnerability without fixing or fleeing? Can I name my desires without shame? These are the real tools of intimacy, and they don't come from TikTok trends or relationship hacks. They come from deep inner work, spiritual maturity, and the courage to be changed by love. Married folks, take note. This applies to you too. A safe relationship isn't a static one, it's a dynamic, living space where two people keep choosing each other, not just a curated version, but the messy, involving soul beneath the surface. The goal isn't perfection, it's proximity to the sacred. As Mistu writes, intimacy is cartography, the ongoing art of mapping unknown terrain that takes tenderness, that takes truth. In conclusion, that takes time.
It takes time indeed, people. And Mr. Mick, to sum up the discussion, what is the cartography of love?
You don't need a perfect map to find love, but do need to stop using the one that keeps leading you back to pain. Mistu's vision reminds us you are not too much, you are not too needy, you are not too late. The geography of intimacy is always under revision, and the best relationships are the ones where you learn to chart new territory together. So if you've ever felt like love was a maze or a trap, maybe the problem wasn't you, it was the map. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to draw a new one together. If this episode stirred something in you, if it's made you think of a love you've lost or a love you want to build, consider sharing it with someone who's drawing a new map of their own. Till next time, love bravely, show up whole. In conclusion, remember, even the broken compass still points to the heart.
Yes, indeed, and very well said, Mr. Mig. Very well said. Intimacy is not a straight line plotted on a clean grid. It is a living cartography etched with erasures, detours, and sacred uncharted depths. So, Mr. Mink, would you like to plug in something?
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity. Your expertise deserves to be a book, not just another draft folder. I'm the book doctor. I help thought leaders transform dying manuscripts into authority building powerhouses. Through literary CPR, I diagnose exactly why your book isn't working and show you how to revive it. Ready to turn your ideas into influence? Start with my free lesson on school. Also, listen to the Dr. Digital podcast, pick up the volumes that I've written, Burning America and On Track Ian Hunter, and listen to the Dr. Digital podcast. Thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Daniel.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Mick because if you support him, more and more and more empowering coaching to come, and for sure, more and more empowering books to come. And please do listen to our baby podcast, Mental Health 101. Mental Health 101 is created to empower our mental health awareness. And Mr. Mick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Until next time, Deus Volt.
More to come, people. See you soon.